All I have for you is a word. Tenet. Welcome to the. God dang it!
So stupid.
I knew I was gonna laugh. I knew I was
Oh
gonna
my
laugh.
god.
So we're gonna look back at this, and it's just gonna be pure cringe.
Yeah,
Oh,
probably.
oh God! Oh God!
Yeah,
What?
5 years from now, when we're making Christopher Nolan movies, we're gonna look back on this and be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
No, I'm talking
Because
like an hour ago when I'm editing this.
in 5 years, we're all gonna be getting $250 million budgets from studios. You just do what you want, bro.
Yeah, come
It's
on.
chill.
It's
"Take the
easy.
money, take the
Yeah,
money, save the
Easy.
theater."
yeah.
Save the
Save the
theater.
theater, Mr. Nolan. Oh my
So
god.
anyway, welcome to the post-pro podcast Tenet discussion. This isn't a typical podcast episode, but we're going to be doing a in-depth, spoiler-heavy review for the new Christopher Nolan film, Tenet. And every time we say Tenet, we have to
Yeah.
we have to do that.
Every time.
Every
time.
time.
Shit.
Every time.
It'll open some of the right doors. Oh shit. Okay. Man, I'm fucking up the joke. There we go.
There we
We
go.
got
Some
it.
of the right doors.
And some of the
And
wrong
some of
ones
the-
too. If I
No,
Why
see,
is it-
it's wrong because it doesn't open.
Oh, this is true.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay. Tenet.
So, out of all of us here, Colin has seen the film twice. Me and Thomas have seen it the one time, and yeah, just letting everyone know that.
Yep. So, did you guys see that? It's actually not done too bad at the box office. It's made over 150 million now worldwide.
Not awful.
So, yeah.
Which definitely isn't that bad. They're 200% expecting a loss with it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
can't
it's
imagine
break
that.
even.
I
Yeah.
think this Labor Day weekend might pick up the numbers a little bit.
Yeah,
Maybe. Yeah.
maybe. We'll see.
We'll definitely see how it does post opening weekend here now.
There's
if
nothing
it-
else out.
Right, but I mean, like.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, New Mutants.
New Mutants.
Personal history of David Copperfield.
And that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see how it is.
But
It's at 150 million right now. It's got to hit at least 400 to 500 million to break even. So
that's not. There's no way.
yeah,
But
probably not.
yeah, they're definitely expecting a loss. They just couldn't keep on with the marketing budget and all that. So
Also, China Tenet's been underperforming in China because there's another film called The 800, which is doing
oh, really?
well there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's made a buco buckos over there.
Wow.
Oh yeah. I think it is. It's because it's a Chinese film, so makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Tenet. So it's the new Christopher.
You don't need to do that every time.
Okay, yeah, I'll stop. But it's a new Christopher Nolan film, a sci-fi action
Really.
adventure epic,
Bond movie.
huge
Yeah.
proportions, spies, espionage, time travel in a sense, inversion. It's got it all. It's pretty wild, and I think we all agree you got to see it at least twice to even get a semblance of some of the inner workings and subtleties of the film. I'm planning to see it again. Honestly, I really want to see it in 40x. So, yeah.
Yeah.
First time I saw it, I thought it was good. I mean, spectacle is obviously the best part of it, I think. Technically, it's a really well-made movie. Although I feel like this is maybe Nolan's messiest editing-wise film. And I think that is part of because it is so grand and huge in scope. I mean, there's a lot happening. Score is great. Really like the intensity of it. Performances.
Ludwig
Göransson.
Yeah, that score is crazy.
Yeah, it's really good. I've listened to it on its own, and there's actually some really cool little detail hidden within the music.
Oh
too.
yeah, he reverses some of the music.
Yeah, and
Oh.
he uses it as a motif for certain scenes in the movie. It's
That's
pretty interesting.
cool.
Like, for example, and we'll get this later, but when Neil's character is introduced, his theme is all reversed, and I think it's hinting at.
Oh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'd give it a listen if you could.
Yeah, I listened to some of it. I'm a big Ludwig fan because I haven't really heard anything bad from him yet. His Black Panther score is pretty great, and the Mandalorian score is Chef's Kiss. It's beautiful. and it complements the show so well. But yeah, he does a great job at being Zimmer, but not being Zimmer.
Is the Mandalorian score, because I haven't seen it yet, but is it very like techno or like?
Nope.
Like, okay, is it like traditional?
It's Imagine Black Panther, but not
Mhm.
Black Panther. It's the best way
Okay.
to describe it. It's like very tribal. It's very tribal.
Okay, but it's not like as
No.
as this one. Right.
No.
Gotcha. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. I feel like the plot, it is a bit confusing.
It is.
It's a bit confusing. You know, anyone who says, "Oh, well, I got Tenet the first time,"
They're wrong.
they haven't seen all of it. Yeah, they're wrong. They haven't gotten all of it.
Those intellectuals sitting there going, "I understand everything."
Yeah, exactly.
It's all the Rick and Morty viewers. They just get Tenet. You're right half the theater.
I wouldn't be surprised if Rick and Morty makes a joke about Tenet in the next season.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, sure.
But thought it was good. I think the script has some issues. I think there could have been a little bit more development in terms of plot detail and characters. But
the protagonist.
Yeah. But other than that, I enjoyed it. Second time around, I noticed a lot of subtleties. There's a lot of little hints and clues throughout the film that really are really just kind of fun Easter eggs and help you piece together things a little bit easier. Like Pattinson's performance, once you come to the ending of the film, which, I mean, this is spoiler review, obviously, but Neil was recruited by the protagonist in the future because they become really good friends to go back in time to get the
protagonist on the team,
exactly, to have the plot go on. And so throughout the film, you notice Neil's character, he obviously knows. Can we just call him the protagonist John?
Yeah, I'm just gonna call him John.
Sure. Let's just call him John.
Because it's
John
really
David Washington,
the protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah. So obviously they've been friends, and you notice a lot of the time throughout scenes with him in the film that he's trying to hide the fact that he knows him, and it's done really well. It's really subtle. There's a lot of nuance.
So yeah, do you? My question is, I guess I'll probably understand this on my second viewing, but the guy that saves him from the inverted bullet at the beginning of the opera scene, is that him?
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Why is the backpack? It has to zoom in on the thing at the end.
Yeah, the little orange tag.
Well, and he dies at the end too.
Yes.
Neil? Yes.
Which was something I didn't catch the first.
Yeah, because I told you because of the backpack thing. I just didn't remember it at the beginning of the film because I wasn't paying attention. So I assumed that was probably him.
Yeah. So it is really interesting, and there's a lot of little stuff too. Apparently, I read this, the lunch scene with Michael Caine's character. Michael Caine essentially says that Sator's plan fails by the end, which it does, but you don't
catch that.
Yeah. So you're like, whoa. And then also the that slab of rock wall that John learns about inverted bullets and all, that's taken from the scene at the end of the movie.
Oh shit, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, which is pretty neat. And you're like,
yeah, it's cool.
Wow, that's.
I mean, it's also thinking about it. Just came out. I mean, this is obviously a very common complaint with the movie in general, but just the amount of technical plot holes there can be. Because I guess who really started that little team up between Neil and John, right? Because if Neil went back and got John, but John technically started it, how did it ever really even start? Because in that sense, there has to be a timeline where the world just kind of ended. I think in this universe, movie,
time, the way I'm looking at time, because this movie's made me think about time a lot, right?
Yeah.
Time, it's kind of like in Interstellar. Remember in Interstellar, past, present, and future all exist along the same plane, flowing at the same time?
Yeah.
It's just relative. And I think that's kind of what he was doing here. They're all existing simultaneously, yet you
that definitely
weave through at different points because time moves.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to nitpick about plot holes, I mean, they never really explain how any of the things going on in the movie even work. I mean, there's literally a quote that just is kind of accept it, just it's happening.
It just works.
Yeah, it just works.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's like when they're going reverse time, they like build those like little weird chambers with like the saran wrap. Well, like what's the point of that? Why?
Oh no, that's so that they can have their own air.
That's
because do you not remember, since the air isn't, if you invert yourself, then the
molecules
air
in the
real world can't go through your lungs. So they have to saran wrap those rooms so that they can feed inversed air into the rooms.
It's ridiculous.
Or vice versa. That made sense to me.
I mean, yeah, that's good for me.
Well, I guess I didn't really realize that.
Yeah. No, it's something you kind of pick on the more the more you watch it, and along with the second viewing, along with like the subtleties in the performances and the details surrounding it, the sound mix, and it could have just been different IMAX showing, different volume setting, but the sound mix for the dialogue didn't even bother me the second time. The first time I was like, okay, this is tough to hear at times. The second time, it didn't really bother me.
They changed it?
No, I'm saying maybe. Maybe like the actual like person that was like up in the projector changed the sound settings.
Well, no, because that would be the mix in the film.
No, they could. You can still change like sound settings in a theater.
You can adjust at least the amplifiers.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess you could change like the bass.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, I mean, if like the manager of the theater really cared, they could technically change a little bit. But like Dolby sucked, dude. Dolby was awful. Like, I want to see it in like maybe like IMAX, but like let me tell you, Dolby was so bad because there's fucking like 100+ speakers in that theater, and literally like when there was gunshots, I felt like there was actual gunshots in the theater because everything is like the mixing in Dolby is super, super nice. Like when it comes to stuff like that, like you really like, I felt like I was there in the action. Same thing with like Dunkirk. But like with this movie, especially, it was just, everything was so fucking loud. And I think I've said this, but like the biggest scene to me where I just was like, what the fuck are they saying, was the speedboat scene. I fucking couldn't hear a goddamn thing when they were talking, because you have the score going on, you have the fucking boat noises and the high speed that they're going, and then they're yelling at each other and you can't hear anything. I'm like, holy shit. What are you saying? And then he just gets thrown off. I'm like, why did he get thrown off the boat? Because I couldn't hear what the fuck was going on.
Yeah. It actually feels like there was a sense, they were like trying to get the sense of urgency like with the amount that was going on, just like through your ears, not only on screen. But it just doesn't work because just how much it muddles it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I heard it is better in standard, probably because you don't have all those extra speakers pumping noise at you. But also, I mean, they could have adjusted the speakers behind the screen, because that's usually where dialogue comes out. Who knows? The second time around, it didn't bother me. And also, what didn't bother me the second time around was the first time I saw it, I thought the opening hour was a little jumpy, where it was going all around and stuff, new locations in span of like minutes. And that didn't bother me because it kind of made sense. He's trying to piece everything together. He is a CIA agent globe-trotting around the world. So, it didn't bother me as much. What I did notice the second time around was the plot was even more confusing for me, or like a more convoluted and less developed than it was the first time.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. You notice certain things that benefit in the viewing, but then you also notice things that you're like, well, what?
I will say this, like, this is kind of a side note on it, but Nolan, like, obviously a big complaint with Nolan's filmmaking in general is how much exposition is just dialogue, or how much dialogue is usually just exposition.
Yeah.
And this film, like, characters were often just exposition too. Like, there's three characters that were just there and gone, right?
Yeah, the Tenet guy.
Yeah, Tenet guy. I mean, even
Indian
Sebastian, like you said,
one.
Indian lady is a big one. I mean, she's just there multiple times, but all her dialogue is just exposition.
Yeah.
Right. And then
The
The
future,
Caine.
the
Michael
future
Caine.
needs Tenet.
Okay.
Oh, 4, and also the lady who explains
Yeah.
inversion to him,
Yeah.
to John.
Yeah. Like, so, I know that, like, and this is kind of just a response to that, but I know lots of people critique Nolan for his use of exposition, but I feel like his exposition isn't insulting in a sense, where like some movies they literally just tell you so blatantly what is going on. His movies at least call for a certain amount of exposition to understand what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So I don't think it's necessarily bad dialogue.
It's just I would go as far as to say as I think this movie is his worst use of exposition dumping, just because of the, like Thomas said, the amount of just bullshit characters that are literally just there to give exposition and go. Like, again, I'm with this is a Nolan movie. I have to compare to other Nolan movies. Like, I just can't like ignore how he's made way better movies than Tenet. Like Inception, I think is his best movie all around, and the exposition in that movie makes sense just because the characters are there and they're telling people like what is going on, how does this dream stuff work, and they're all in the movie as characters. But then in this movie they're just there and they're gone.
Yeah,
They're
the characters are established better.
Yeah, especially in Inception.
I will also say something I'm not excited about is like I definitely do want to rewatch this. So a lot of Nolan's films to me are I like rate them very highly the first time, and then they fall down the second time because a lot of them are just insane spectacles the first time, and then you kind of just understand and know what's happening, and it's just not as kind of groundbreaking. But that's very much me. Too.
Sure. To be fair, my score did go down for Tenet the second time around, and that was only because I felt like the plot is not underdeveloped, but the characters are underdeveloped, and there are certain elements to the plot that aren't explained or explored as well as they could be. Also, because the editing is pretty messy in this movie. It's probably some of the messiest in any of his films he made.
I just think it's his weakest script too.
Yeah, and I think that goes along.
You know, like I don't want to be big brained, right, and say this, but like I just feel like there is a way better way to execute the movie. I feel like he like Nolan is very, picky when it comes to that, but like, he wants what he wants, but it's like I feel like he should have taken a little more time to develop the movie, because I feel like if he had developed John David Washington's character and made him somewhat have some emotional arc, because there's only one real emotional arc in this movie, and that's Sater and his wife, and that's really the only characters that get any sort of real development in the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that also was like, again, to me personally, I thought that was also kind of weak because I didn't really care about them at all. I wanted to learn more about John David Washington and Robert Pattinson because they're kind of the leads of the movie, and you don't really get to understand anything about them at all. You get a little bit about Pattinson.
Yeah, you get them at the ending, but that's
kind of as cool as the ending is. You still wish there had been a little bit more developed in terms of their characters leading up to that.
Yeah, especially I just think it's stupid that the main character is called the protagonist. Again, I get that maybe it's his code name or something, but it seems like when I watched the movie, he kind of just picked up on it because the Indian lady was calling him the protagonist as kind of like, I guess, a joke or something. Because she's like, "You're the protagonist in this story" or whatever, and he's just like, "Okay," and he just calls himself the protagonist at the end of the movie.
It does kind of come out of nowhere. It didn't bother me though. I didn't necessarily think it was something bad, because I mean, Nolan has had films where his lead characters like don't have a name. Like Following, for example, the guy's name is never said, and then we only know. I mean, lots of his characters we only know by either a nickname or their last name.
Cobb.
Cobb, Cooper.
Was it not Don Cobb? Or am I thinking
I
Don Cobb?
I think it is Dom.
Yeah, it's Don Cobb.
Dom
Cobb.
Yeah. But anyway, you see my point. I don't know. That part of it didn't.
I don't know. It just bothered me just because every other character almost kind of had a name, and like it's just like he's the guy we're following, and he just all is he's a CIA agent, and that's it. And it just bothered me. I would have liked at least a name or like a little bit of character, because he's literally just there, and I think he did a great job acting. Of course, I think John David Washington's great, but like I just really could have used more from him.
Yeah. And the physical performance as well, because he did stunts, and
physically he's
is crazy.
Oof. Yes, for sure. I definitely think
and such.
Like maybe the editing that bothered me the first time around, it's probably just something I need to pay more attention to the second time. I definitely think the second time is very much often the more technical post-production aspects of a film that you pay attention to.
It's where you notice those little things,
but just in general, the actual filmmaking in it, like apart from writing, because I mean everything making a film is filmmaking, but just what they had to do on set for that film is spectacular. It's insane.
I couldn't even imagine.
Oh yeah,
the undertaking it would have been. Yeah,
the filmmaking is amazing. The directing is great. It's just it all comes down to technicality and script. Those are just I think we can all agree those are the two weakest parts of the film.
Yeah.
At least editing, like just maybe continuity editing if you want to get really specific. There was one particular scene. It was the scene where they're on those boats, sail things. Yeah, like there's a shot of them going by, and then it cuts to them speaking, and the shot going by was they were on the opposite side than they were speaking.
Oh,
that's so blatant, you know? Usually that doesn't happen in a Nolan film, something that blatant, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I noticed things like that throughout. Especially
Are you sure it wasn't they didn't move? Because I remember
there is a scene where they flip.
They do flip a couple times, but this was before that happened, and I was like, ooh, I got you. You know? And same thing with some of the fight scenes. There are some odd editing choices during the fight scenes. And I think it's just because they were having to shoot it forward and backward and then kind of splice those together. So, you know, it happens. All films have errors like that in editing.
Well, from what I heard the actual, like, the combat scene where he fights himself, it was an actual, like, I know they learned to train, like, fight in reverse. I'm pretty sure they actually, like, did that. That wasn't.
They did. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you're talking about like the end, right? You're talking about like the big battle.
Yeah, there were some.
Yeah. I assume that's what you're talking about because I was gonna say the hallway fight was like pretty great.
Yeah.
And speaking of that finale, I mean, that the wide shot of the helicopters coming in and then going out and the people running forward.
Oh my god!
Him going backward.
It's on another level.
It is. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And that scene in particular, when they both count down to 5 minutes and they reverse blow up the building and then blow up the building up top.
Oh my god, that was so cool.
That was so cool.
That was so sick.
That really was.
Yeah.
That, you know, stuff like that. That just gets you going in the movie.
Yeah. You know? I mean, just that stuff in general is like peak Nolan. Just those moments where you're just like, oh, what?
Yeah. Your jaw's on the floor and you're just like, yes.
As it was really cool, I also was really confused as to, like, at first what was even going on. All I understood was there's like this time bomb that they're trying to stop. But I also, this is just a really stupid complaint, but I also, out of walking out of the movie, I'm like, what would have happened if the time bomb would have gone off? I kind of have seen what would have happened. Like, what would have happened? I kind of want to know now.
Well, they explained it. That's why this is the symbol. It's that, because that was trying to like reverse everything, but there was like a point when they were trying to reverse everything where everything would have been at the exact same level of entropy, where the same amount of things would be trying to move backwards as the same amount of things would be trying to move forwards, and that would just end the world.
Okay, I didn't really.
I didn't catch that either. Like, I was just kind of confused. Like, I honestly, like, I was kind of expecting the movie to have like a really like somber ending, and for just them not to like fix anything, and just the world actually ended, because like I was kind of curious to see like how the world would have ended.
I mentioned that too. Like when she killed Sato, I was just like, I was like, that has to be it. And
because that was essentially compromising the plan.
That was also what they like. That's what they wanted. That's what he wanted. He was wanted to die.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another thing. I was like, wait, what? Because I also thought that when that happened, I'm like, wait, did they just fuck up and now the world's gonna end? And they was just go, okay, whatever.
And I mentioned this walking out of the theater, but thinking about it now, it's probably just for the reason I want to see how Nolan would have done the whole world ending, especially in that fashion, because I think that's such a cool idea for the end of the world. But I wouldn't have minded such like this, as you said, that somber ending.
Yeah.
Would have been interesting.
Would have been different, for sure. Because usually his films have somewhat of a
happy ending.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's like
maybe not Memento, but
Inception.
Yeah. Trying to run through. I mean, Inception, Interstellar, both definitely happy endings.
Kind of.
Yeah, The Prestige even kind of has a happy ending.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Inception's definitely like his very most fairy tale ending out of all of them, though. Especially the last like,
for
5
sure.
minutes. It's like, oh my god, we did it. We completed the mission.
Interstellar too.
Yeah.
Interstellar was a
little more sad though.
Really, I'd say more so Interstellar because I mean that was just the big thing. Sure, his daughter's dying, but they saved the world. Yeah. I'd say Inception though still gives you that room for thought of if
because the top was still spinning and it
he was not in a dream. It's
it's debated.
It's debated, but I don't even think there's really a debate just because you never see the kids' faces and then he does see the kids' faces.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
I think just Inception and Interstellar in general are his two most emotionally resonant endings anyway. So, it works.
And then Tenet is not.
Still enjoy Tenet. Tenet. I'm excited to see it a third time.
I mean, that ending, I would still say would be emotional, especially just between the two performances.
It was just confusing.
Yeah, the ending's emotional, but there's not enough leading up to the ending to really get you there.
Yeah, there's not enough between those two characters.
I honestly
subtleties you
Nolan's
see.
Basically just saying, this happens, this is real, and that's that.
It just left me confused because I was like, wait, years? I was like, hold on, bro. I was like, wait a second. And then I just left confused. I'm like, wait, what?
Wait.
Well, we'll get into that. Yeah, let's get into that. Okay, we're back, and we have our special guest.
Where'd I come from?
Where'd that?
Look at that.
Look at this.
He's been here
down
the whole
there.
time.
He's been here the whole time.
He was going inverse, and he just got here to this very moment.
Yeah, he was going back.
Guys, I just want to tell you that for me, this is the end of a beautiful podcast. But for you, it's just the beginning.
Wow, I'm crying.
Wow,
I'm gonna cry.
What a line.
So, big welcome back to Casey, who hasn't been on the podcast in like 2 months.
Yeah, probably at least
20 episodes. It was a while ago.
A busy man, indeed.
Sweeney Todd was my last one, I think.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, I think.
Which was your pick as well.
That was your last one.
Yeah, I just made a pick, and then I'm like, I'm out of here, guys.
Yeah. You made us watch something and just dipped.
So I guess I'll just
give
get
us
into
your
my
thoughts
thoughts on the movie. Yeah, so I watched it. Actually, I've seen it 3 times now, but I only wrote notes for the first 2. Third time I saw it in 40X, moving chairs. It's all right. It's better than 1917 in 40X, but anyway.
Oh yeah, that was a disappointment.
It really was. So Tenet, like the effects in the seats are actually more, I think, appropriate, but still, it just, I don't know, it feels a little gimmicky. But anyway, when I watched it the first time, I came out. I'll just say it right now. It came out 8 out of 10. That was my original score. And some quick notes I wrote here was obviously the set pieces were just like huge, obviously all practical. I mean, the spectacle of everything was super. I don't know. It was like really, really grand, I guess.
Riveting.
Totally different than
epic.
You see on like Black Panther Act 3. Oh my god.
Oh man.
Where
no,
like
don't
you're
talk
just in
about
a cube with blue walls, and the actors are just like, "Oh my god, it's the train."
Rubber CG fight.
Respect to Chadwick though, but
yes, 2 graphics. Okay, continue on.
I thought the action scenes were really cool, and obviously you guys have seen the special feature or whatever, talking about saw a little behind the scenes featurettes about the fighting, but I really enjoyed actually experiencing the fight one way when you have inverted John David Washington, and then you see it from the other side again, but the camera angles are different, and So I thought that was really cool. I like the action. I like the set pieces. I think the use of the time travel itself was kind of new, different than your typical Back to the
Yeah.
Future thing. But
Sure,
it was kind of like an end game use of the time where
And that's
the past
that's
is
what we were
actually
talking
really-
about before.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so you guys
Yeah,
mentioned
how like past, present, and future kind of flow along at the same time.
yeah, they're like multiple realities
Right. Yeah.
instead
Like
of
offs.
like Biff going back in time and betting on the sports. But I did notice editing issues. So obviously, Sebastian, I'm sure you talked about the sound mixing and how
Yeah,
it's
we
kind
did.
of atrocious in certain spots. But I actually noticed editing problems. There are two scenes, specifically one where I forget her name. Indian lady is walking with John David Washington, and they're like walking and talking outside, speaking to
Yeah.
each other. And so obviously, when they film that scene, they have one camera on her and then one on him. And obviously filmmaking basics, they usually switch cameras or whatever when each person's talking. But there were a couple times when the camera stayed on him and then she was talking,
Yeah.
but you could see her mouth like in the corner of the screen like this, and it wasn't matched up to the audio at all. There were
Sure,
times
yeah.
when
Oh.
her mouth would just be like, and she'd be talking, and then there'd be times when she was like, and then
Yeah, that's
there was
pretty,
no
that's
words.
pretty bad.
Well, I mean,
I
it's-
noticed that twice.
It's not pretty bad. It's just, but those are things that happen in every movie. And what it is it's just editing of different takes. So they probably did
Yeah, for sure.
5 takes of that, and then took the audio from one they liked and paired it with the video of one they liked.
But they
And
Yeah, it's
that's
just
also why and that's also why she wasn't looking at him in certain continuity takes as well.
Mhm.
So it happens. This is definitely, like we were talking about this earlier in certain editing scenes as well. This is definitely his messiest film editing wise, but I mean, still like not. It's not like the worst you've ever seen.
No.
It's not the worst I've ever seen, but like for a movie of this caliber, I expected those to not be
Sure.
there, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe it was also because we were watching on the IMAX screen with like everything was magnified.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I just noticed it like way more. But
I noticed it too.
it was I noticed it twice, and maybe it happened a third time as well.
Well, let me ask you this, because we talked about this before. Did you notice the scene where they were on those like sail speedboats?
Mhm.
There's a establishing shot, and they're on one side of the boat, and then it cuts to them talking. They're on the opposite side. Did you notice that?
I didn't notice it, but I'm
Okay.
sure. Yeah, it
Oh,
doesn't surprise me.
that was one of those that
surprise
I
me.
noticed.
Well, here's the thing. I actually think, and I saw this written after I watched it my second time. I read someone's review, and I think that I agree with this person. I forget who it was, but they said there was probably a runtime issue with this movie. It was probably like well over 3 hours, and they just had to cut as much as possible. And that's why things seem sort of like choppy, and there's no breathing room. It's just like
Yeah.
action. Next scene, we're right into it. Next scene, we're right
Well,
into it.
I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was like several podcasts ago. The runtime for Tenet was announced at 3 hours 15 minutes.
Really?
Okay, well, that
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we
And
talked
then it
about
got cut down to the 150.
they probably had a lot of just chopping stuff out, and
Wow.
there may have been lines within that scene itself where because you saw them switch sides once. They probably did it like 2 or 3 times in the original
Sure.
take,
Yeah.
and then they just like cut it out and didn't think about it.
I'd be curious to see the
Yeah, I'd
director's
love
cut
to
if
see,
we
like, a
ever
director's
get
cut.
it. Yeah,
True. Yeah. Same.
I feel like
It
that
probably gives you those
way
moments
better.
that you need of just like
especially in the beginning, because the first hour we talked about how, like Thomas mentioned, he was worried that it was going to be jumping around too much in terms
Mhm.
of space and
Mhm.
location, and that's an issue I had the first time. It was just kind of all over the place. Second time, it really didn't bother me that much, but
Yeah, I didn't even really hate it that much when I was watching it. That was my biggest worry, like walking into the film itself, too.
I mean,
It
it
was
was
just-
noticeable though.
Yeah, but I feel like it handles it better than, like, say, Aquaman having Pitbull's cover of Africa over their little travel sequence.
Yeah.
Right?
yeah.
I don't think it's done so in a confusing way here. It may be rushed to an extent because there's not a lot of development in terms of character and plot detail in that first stretch,
hmm
but it's not like, oh my god, where are they? You know where they are each part.
Yeah, that's true. I think one thing that was funny that I just thought of just now is like the very opening scene is such a good representation of the rest of the movie, where like you hear the violins warming up, you hear the conductor tap tap tap, and then boom, gunfire. That's just like that's the whole movie. That's every scene. It's just like you're in it. Here we go.
You're in it. Here we go.
I guess there were a couple scenes that slowed down, but just I don't know.
It's all the exposition dumping.
Yeah, exactly.
It needs you. It needs Tenet.
Yeah. Welcome to the avenue.
I thought for a 2.5 hour movie is really well paced.
Yeah.
And it never really feels long in a sense.
No, there's definitely no lull.
Especially the second time around seeing it, I was like, okay, this works a lot better. That first hour I was a little iffy on, but I think because of the jumpy structure. But once I saw it again, it really didn't bother me that much.
Yeah. And to that point, I will say on my second rewatch, I actually upgraded my rating to a 9 out of 10. I cannot excuse the sound mixing, which for me actually wasn't that bad. The boat scene is like the worst offender.
It is.
With
It's so bad.
the mask and the microphone, and then like the blasting music, and then obviously the ocean noise, the wind noise, and then they like added this sound effect when the boat like lifts up, like this ring.
Yeah.
And it's like
So
I can't hear anything. And then the editing issues that I mentioned. But other than that, like watching it a second time, I would say that I understood a lot of it the first time. Like I sort of wasn't that confused, but when you watch it the second time, there's just these little things that I noticed. Like the whole, you guys probably mentioned already, the Diet Coke thing. I was like, oh, yes, they're BFFs.
Yeah, the
Like,
subtle things in Pattinson's performance.
Yeah, you just sort of I picked those things up and I enjoyed it a lot. And I think that Kenneth Branagh did it like a really good job. Like I don't know if that's a hot take.
Yeah.
Oh, he was
He's
terrifying.
good. Yeah, he's really good.
I
he's like
can't
over the top, in a really good way.
one can.
He literally
So
was like
good.
an over-the-top Bond villain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But I loved it. It was
It very much feels like a futuristic Bond movie.
Yeah, it does.
Like-
That's the best way to describe it. Really, it's like a Bond. I mean, they're literally like they're advertising it as that. Like, there's literally a
Which,
TV
I mean-
spot that says Bond on crack, which is definitely the best
Yeah, I saw
way
that.
to say this movie.
I mean, honestly, thinking about it, what if this just is John David Washington's audition for Bond? I mean,
no, Idris Elba needs to be Bond. Okay.
yeah, no, it just elbowed.
Daniel Craig needs to stay
Very
Bond.
good.
Yeah, Daniel
Well,
Craig is Bond forever. But
That would be good, but it's not happening.
You guys saw the trailer. How did you think it looked?
Oh my god,
I
so
think
good.
it looks so fucking good, dude.
Looks
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Dude, I know it's a completely different discussion, but Jesus Christ, it looks so fucking good.
There's
And
that shot where
it should be out. It should be out
Yeah,
right
I
now.
know. Right? I should have seen it already, man.
Yeah, we should have seen
Yeah.
it like 3 times already.
Fast
Yeah.
and Furious 9.
Fast and Furious.
Oh my god, dude.
Oh man,
yeah.
we were planning on fucking marathoning like
Wait,
what,
no, we
all
still
8?
Yeah,
do.
we were,
No,
we
we
were.
still do. We
Oh,
still
we-
do
we
have
will.
to
We
marathon
still
it.
will.
No, wait,
Yeah.
that's gonna happen. Like I'm down for
man.
it. I'm down for it.
But you have that one shot in the
I've
trailer
only
where
seen
like
the first 2.
that SUV
Fascinating.
flips
Dude, the SUV flips and he
in
just
and he just
Yeah,
shoots the
that's
driver like instantly. That
No,
looks
the cinematography looks beautiful. Like
Yeah.
like Rami Malek in like the pool. Like
Oh
Like,
yeah,
that was
and then
really
like shooting
nice.
down on the ice or whatever. That looked cool
Yeah.
too.
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right.
anyway, enough
Sorry.
Bond.
Yeah,
let's
enough
get back.
Bond.
Let's get back to Tenet. Here, let me.
I'm more
Yeah.
interested in
Let's see.
Bond,
Let me read if I have any more notes about the second viewing. Just the music. I think it was a really good job by what's his face, Ludwig Göransson or whatever,
Yeah.
the
Ludwig
Black Panther guy.
Göransson.
I thought it was really cool.
Did the sound mix bother you as much the second time around? Because for me, it really didn't.
Did the what?
The sound mix.
No, that's why I'm saying like it's
Yeah.
only bad in that one scene. I thought. I thought a lot of the
that is exactly.
complaints.
I'm with Casey on that one. That the boat scene is so bad.
Yeah,
Like it. Oh man, yeah.
but
It's not as bad as some people are making out to.
I listened really closely on the second time, and I still didn't catch 100%, but I got way more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having known, I know the story now, and I can like really key in.
Sure.
But the rest of the scenes, no, I didn't think they were that bad. I thought a lot of the sort of bad press or reviews about it were kind of overstated, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd agree
yeah.
with that. I think
I agree.
it's because a lot
Which
of
I
those
think
reviews
it's-
are mentioned. Oh, sorry, but a
No,
lot of those reviews are like mentioning music as well. But I don't think music was the main issue. It was if like there was another thing going on, like,
I'm gonna
especially
be
the
honest.
masks. The masks were big.
Yet I didn't even really notice the music that much. It was kind of subtle. It like in certain scenes, it didn't really bother me. But I was there. I just wasn't paying attention to the music, quite honestly.
in certain scenes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
But
that
then
goes
other
back
scenes
to what
it
I was
really
mentioning.
takes
Well,
over.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the do. But I think that goes to, I was mentioning earlier, Casey, I don't know if you've listened to the soundtrack by itself, but there's some like interesting motifs that hint at things within the movie.
Yes.
Specifically, like the audio playing backwards and stuff.
Yep. Yep. I noticed that actually while we watched the film
Yeah.
the second time. I was like,
Mhm.
is that? Because there's a different sort of sound. Like
Yeah.
if you just play something backwards, it sounds normal. But there's a different actual like sound of the instrument playing backwards. Like
Right.
it just sounds weird to your ears. And you're right. When you listen to the soundtrack alone, you totally notice. It's
It
really
happened in
cool.
a lot of Neil's scenes,
Yeah.
which I think was, heavily hinting at his being from I
Right.
guess, the future, coming back and all. So,
That car chase scene when the music started, when it's like, bow, bow, I
yeah.
was like, okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
movie,
the
go
plane,
on.
the plane scene has some crazy music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was just.
Oh my god.
I
mean, that is really the spectacle. Like, okay, well, I mean, the ending too. Shit. Okay, crazy film just in general. But I mean, he did crash a plane there.
Mm-hmm.
not from the air.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
Don't be so dramatic.
Yeah. So
Don't
good.
be so dramatic.
Which, by the way, I could complain about that too, because I mean, my mom's taught me a lot about air travel. That shit would never happen. I'm just gonna be quite honest with you.
Oh.
Sure.
Boo! Ruin the fun, Sebastian. Come on.
No, like, yeah, I won't go into it, but like that bothered me just a little bit because I just could think about my mom telling me about how all the fucking safety protocols and shit they do for having hijacking of planes and how like the cockpit locks as soon as the plane like starts. So there'd be like no way they could get into. Yeah, it doesn't matter, but yeah, it bothered me a little.
Well, I
bit.
think they could, like, they have the ability to open the door, but the protocol is like
Yeah.
that shit is closed as soon as you start
the plane
engine.
is moving. Yeah. So that bothered me a little bit, but
But I guess if the pilots were careless enough to like just keep the door open, it could happen. Also, there would be more than I think 2 security guards on a plane
Yeah.
full of gold.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, oh sorry.
It's not that bad.
yeah, again, really stupid nitpick, but
Sure. Yeah.
I'd say, yeah.
I wanted to get into a few plot points that I think are integral, but are also kind of confusing. And because for me, upon the second watch, I was actually confused by more things than I was the first watch, kind of.
It's hard. It is kind of hard to get your head around some of the
Yeah,
stuff.
one of the biggest things being the opening scene and its purpose. So I think it's a great scene, obviously, but the whole test that the protagonist is doing seems rather convoluted in a like.
Yeah.
What exactly are they trying to do, sort of way?
Yeah, and then on top, I also was confused because it seemed like it was like a setup or something because it was like the Russian government was like purposely like doing it because I don't know, I was confused too.
So I was confused to whether it was all real or whether it was all staged or whether it was partially. So like you see, there are obviously some sort of like Russian mercenaries take over the opera house. And this is in Kiev. So they're with Ukrainian SWAT or whoever. And they're John David Washington and a couple others are the only Americans with them for some reason. Okay. They go in and there's the bomb threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to save some guy who's up in the higher level. Then there's another guy that they save. And when they get back to the car, they say that's the wrong guy. So I'm assuming that guy had to have been in league with John David Washington's character. But then also, before we get to that, in the opera scene, there's one of the Kiev SWAT who tries to shoot at John David Washington.
Yeah, because here's what
that's how Robert Pattinson saves him. That's where Robert Pattinson comes in to save him.
So
I'm just trying to understand who is doing what and why in the scene.
Okay, here's what I think it is. At least partially. Now, I don't know for sure. So John David Washington is not actually working with the Ukrainian SWAT team. They're there because they know that this thing, whatever event is about to happen. And that's why they throw on the patch to pretend that they're a Ukrainian SWAT.
Right.
And use this opportunity of chaos to get the guy out.
Mm-hmm.
So what you mentioned about the Ukrainian SWAT team, like, who the fuck are you? Like, it's because I think there's like a double crossing situation going on. So they're
Yeah.
pretending to be the Ukrainian SWAT to just steal this guy basically from them.
Right.
But I don't know, to your point, I don't know
But
why
they
they
don't.
switch guys.
Yeah, because
No.
they just get another guy. And then so when they get back to the truck, they're like, that's not the right guy. And that's when those
Yeah, and those are, so they mentioned later in the movie, those private Russians, we think. So
Private Russians,
we know there's
yeah.
some private Russian.
which
I think
also makes me
Americans-
think because Sator is Russian and he knows of that opera house.
Yeah, he mentions it. At one point.
They're
Yeah.
well, yeah, because at the dinner later on, John David Washington says you like opera, and that's what catches Sator's attention.
That's kind of what Sage
So-
says.
I'm wondering if those were Sator's Russians.
Well, because they had inverted bullets too.
Right,
One of them did, yeah.
right.
No, I thought the only inverted bullet was
it
Robert
was
Pattinson.
Neil.
No, yeah. That was only Robert Pattinson's.
Yeah,
But
I don't think
one
these
of- one of
dudes were
those-
at all connected with Sator. I think.
You don't.
Oh my god, I have no idea.
I guess we'll never know.
Yeah,
That's
see?
something that bothered me throughout the movie.
That's very much a Tenet thing.
If it had been set alone as just a test in the beginning, I would have been fine. But because they bring up opera and Russian, like private Russians again later on, I was like, that made me start thinking, but then I couldn't connect them in a cohesive way.
Because to me, it was like an inside job or something. Because then the SWAT team started putting bombs and shit
Exactly.
down. So I was like, what is going on here? Because then the terrorists, they came in and they had the bomb threat and they did all that.
They
And then
got rid of all the
those
terrorists.
SWAT,
Yeah,
And
but
then the
then one
SWAT
of those
comes in.
Ukrainian SWAT guys,
Starts playing bombs.
and
Right.
tried to kill John David Washington, which is why Neil saved him.
No, not even that. They were going to kill everyone in the crowd. They started planting bombs.
Yeah.
And that's why they went back in and saved everybody.
It was.
So I was like,
he mentioned something about like. It sounds like Joker. He mentioned something about like sending a message, and then John David Washington was like, "It's just the cheap seats," or whatever.
Yeah, well, that's just where the bombs were. It's just the cheap seats.
Right, but he said it in a way like, "Oh, it's just the poor people. Like no one is important." But
No,
yeah, so who
no, he
was that
didn't.
guy in the beginning? So there's like it's either a Russian or a Ukrainian like military leader. He's just sitting there with a gun.
Yeah.
This other dude
Yeah.
who John David Washington like grabs and swoops down, and he tries to get him out, and then they do get him out. I guess he's like, "Go through the
Yeah.
tunnel."
Because he was changing into one of their uniforms.
Okay, so I think
And
I see what's happening. Maybe I'm totally crazy. So it was a triple crossing operation.
a quadruple crossing, maybe.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So these private Russian dudes are in there to steal that guy. Okay, and their plan is to use this terrorist threat to like cause all this chaos and steal this guy with the help of these CIA agents. The CIA agents double cross them by, instead of giving him to them, send him on his way.
Okay,
Or
so
whatever.
the CIA would double cross the Ukrainian SWAT team, right?
They were never working with the Ukrainian
Oh,
SWAT
bro.
team. That's what I mean.
But they were pretending to, so they wouldn't double cross the Russians, because the Russians are the perceived bad guys in this scene.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't think we're gonna know until Nolan says something what the whole purpose of that scene is, because I don't think anybody probably knows what was going on there. Because I also was confused about that. I'm like, how did this relate to the rest of the movie? And
Okay,
then I
so-
got confused with him at the dinner table too, because
Yeah.
he mentions it too. So it's like, what does this have to do with like the plot of the movie?
Okay, here, I'm going to try and explain it real quick, and then we can move on. This is what I'm getting right now. Okay, so John David Washington, the other Americans who are nameless, I get this, they don't really mean much. They're pretending, so they're CIA, and they're pretending to work with the Ukrainian SWAT, who is going to the Opera House because they know of a threat by private Russians, right? The private Russians are using this threat to try and get that guy out, the blonde-haired guy, right?
Mhm.
Okay, but because John David Washington, the Americans, get him under guise of working with the Ukrainians,
Right.
they get him out and then use some other guy, who I still don't know who this other guy was, to pretend to keep that they were
You got it,
in
Colin.
line with the Ukrainians, right? But in reality, they're getting that guy out, I guess,
Yeah.
for the Americans. The Ukrainians catch on to this, and I guess those Ukrainians in the truck at the beginning were part of the Tenet test.
Yeah,
But-
none of those guys in the truck were actual Ukrainian SWAT. That's why they're like in an unmarked van and they like just hop into the crowd.
Right. So I think I get it, that part now. But still, it kind of makes you wonder, okay, what happened to the guy they were supposed to get?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess he just
what were the Russians really doing?
and also even if you can,
Ukrainians- And why were the Ukrainians trying to bomb? I get that maybe like if the Ukrainian figured out that John David Washington was American and was trying to do something else, he would kind of do something about it. But because there was the whole bomb threat, and then it was Ukrainian who kind of did it, that's the weird part.
I don't know.
I mean, even if you can't really, like, I mean, it's definitely just saying something. Like, if you can't get it like immediately after 3 viewings or 2 viewings, and that takes this much of a discussion to even get to some point, that's just saying something in and of itself.
Yeah, it's convoluted.
Mhm.
And so then you wonder when we meet Tenet Man, he's like, it was a
Tenet
test.
Man.
Some people don't pass this test. So you just wonder, okay, what part of this thing was the test? You know, did you want me to die?
Yeah.
Did you know I wasn't going to die? Because, I mean, Tenet Man, anyone who knows Tenet knows of inversion. Tenet Man could be from the future and knows that Neil is coming back to save John Washington. John David Washington could have recruited Tenet Man to tell him about Tenet. Yeah.
Bro.
Okay,
Oh my
question.
god.
Is John David Washington's character ever named in the movie?
No.
He's just a protagonist.
He's credited as the protagonist.
Okay, that's what
We
I
were
thought. I
just-
kept going
we
crazy.
were
with
just gonna call him
calling
John.
David Washington.
Yeah, we were calling John.
Yeah, let's
So-
just call him John from now on.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia like plot, and it totally doesn't help. It doesn't. It
makes
doesn't
sense.
tell you what
Yeah,
the test is.
I was reading that as well. I feel like plot-wise, it's supposed to be just the test. But if this test wasn't so convoluted, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Yeah.
You know, because it seems so integral to the rest of the plot. I feel like it should make.
There's probably
something
something where maybe in the director's cut it makes more sense or something because clearly
It has
Maybe.
to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm assuming, so we can just assume, or we should just assume, that the protagonist literally like hired everybody.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Because then another thing. So when those fake Ukrainian guys that may or may not have been part of the test are interrogating John and the wrong guy, you assume that the wrong guy is like dead or knocked out, but then he pulls out the pill, which isn't really a cyanide pill. It's just a medical inducing coma pill. So he must have been part of the test too. And then, I don't know.
But then they say that the rest of his squad didn't survive.
Yeah, and like, well, you survived. Most people don't pass a test. So what kind of test is this?
No, but he even asked,
No,
like,
no,
did my
he's-
team survive?
Yeah,
and then the guy was
Yeah,
like,
and
nope.
then nah. And then
Yeah, so I don't
he
know.
also specifically states that the guy who gave him the pill, like the coma pill, like that he spilled, like that he cracked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And well, part of the test was to kill yourself instead of giving up information, which he passed. But like, what if he did give up information and tried to take the cyanide pill? Then he still wouldn't have died. Would they have just killed him afterwards? They would just been like, well, he didn't pass the test. Time to liquidize the asset.
how would they know if he gave information as well?
Exactly, because you don't know if those fake Ukrainians are part of the test or not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, either way, it's like, is the CIA just killing their own agents willy-nilly if they don't do something right?
I think we should just move on.
Yeah.
I'm getting pretty tired of this just because I don't understand any of it at all. I can't give you a definitive answer to this, you know?
You got to watch the extended cut.
I really hope
Wait for
that
the
comes
comments.
Release
out.
the Nolan
I-
cut. Release
Yeah,
the
release the
cut.
I hope
Nolan
they
cut.
do. I hope they do, because
Me
I
too.
would be really interested to see what changes, what's more, what's different, you know? And then I think another thing we should talk about.
Well, hold on. Before you go move
Okay,
on,
go ahead.
there was another thing. So later in the movie, we find out that the opera house
Oh,
and the
brother.
explosion, which ends up in the last scene, are connected somehow. Like the explosion, it happened at the same time. You remember?
No, I don't remember that.
They're on the same day. The explosion and the Opera House siege
Oh,
happened at the same time.
Oh. Then, okay, remember
Because later in the
earlier-
movie when they're like, oh,
yeah.
what
'cause
day
I mean,
was that that we have to go back to? And Neil was like, oh, it's 10 days ago. It's the same day that the Opera House siege happened. And then the protagonist was like, how do you know about that? So somehow those two
I
are
didn't even
connected.
catch that. I didn't even catch
Yeah, I remember that scene where
Yeah,
I was like, I don't remember that. Huh.
Okay, here's an idea. Remember how
Oh, brother.
I
What
think
happened to moving on?
okay, hold on. But this was before Casey came in, but we were talking about how oh my god, I just lost it. Oh no.
Okay.
I got it.
No.
Shut up. So Sator wants the world to end, and there's a particular day where forward entropy and backwards entropy collide, and that is supposed to cause annihilation, right? That was his plan, because he has cancer, which comes out of nowhere. I didn't really. That was like the room cancer, Sebastian.
Yeah, it was like, I have breast cancer.
Yeah, I have colon cancer. Oh, he's dying, so he wants the
Pancreatic
world to end with him, or whatever. Colon, pancreatic, whatever case.
Nice one, Casey.
So,
Got him.
So he wants the
Inoperable.
world to end. He knows the world's going to end on this certain day, so he makes sure that the world is going to end on this certain day. If maybe that's the connection to the opera with him. Those Russians were his, and somehow the opera is an epicenter of this entropy annihilation thing.
I think, no. I think the reason for the world ending is not due to a certain day or a different amount of things moving backward and forward. Isn't it just, his death would cause the end of the world?
I think maybe if
that's part of it.
this is all just, it was just if it was the same day as the world was supposed to end, that it was probably just a cover up to get people off of him. If there was like some I don't know,
Because there's another thing that he mentions. So Michael Caine's character tells the protagonist about this strange explosion thing, and then sometime in the movie, I don't know if it's in the first scene or later on in the movie, the protagonist mentions that warhead at the beginning, or sorry, the warhead for the explosion at the end, somehow there's missing material from it.
Oh yes, because it's the algorithm piece.
Yeah, and the material
one of those
from
was at the
that
opera.
explosion site, was used in those tiny bombs at the Opera House.
Yeah, because John David Washington found like one of the algorithm pieces in the opera.
Like in a coat or whatever. Remember, he went to like the coat room and grabbed it.
Yeah.
So somehow I
Somehow
feel like I don't know anything about the movie.
Well,
Yeah.
the algorithm
Somehow they're
pieces
connected.
are integral to Sator's plan, because there are like 8 or 9 of them, and
But why was it there?
The big connected one, because remember, okay, they said that he communicates with the future, and through his fake what was it, the chemical
Whatever. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Remember what he found in his hometown as a kid?
The like radio.
Oh yeah, it was the
Radiation,
plutonium, but it wasn't actually plutonium.
Yeah, it was those algorithm pieces.
It was a letter from the future that said, "Here's some
a letter.
gold, do this shit."
Yeah, and so now he communicates with the future, and he gets sent these algorithm pieces in certain locations because they're too dangerous to be sent as one.
Right. What he does is, so it's different radioactive material. So what he does is he makes a bomb out of each one of those materials, puts a time capsule underneath the explosion, and just explodes it. And then they find it later in the future somehow with tracking or whatever. And then they put in the gold with some of whatever to make it go backwards in time. So for him, it's instantaneous. He basically gets gold like immediately.
Yeah. So I guess one of those, maybe the guy that they were trying to get out in the opera somehow had one of those algorithm pieces that would have had gold in it later on.
Because he was a spy that was found out or whatever.
Yeah.
You've been made.
We have a minute.
See, Yeah, I'm just saying I need to see it again, and I'm going to try and pay more attention to the old algorithm plot line, and specifically the opera ties, because I feel like they're really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's I think there's a couple lines that I'm forgetting.
Sure.
That,
Yeah.
like,
That's what I'm saying. I need to see it in subtitles.
because it clicked in my head when I was watching,
glasses,
and I just don't remember.
Yeah. So I think after talking about that for what goes on, I feel like, and we also, mentioned off record, if there was an extended cut, I think it would clear up a lot of things. I don't necessarily think it's the problem with the plot is plot holes per se, but it's just that certain things are underdeveloped. And if there was just a little bit more dialogue or a little bit more show in piecing everything together, it would make a lot more sense and things would become more cohesive.
Yeah, and it may be a thing where that, one explanation that we need just got cut.
Yeah, like one just piece, like one scene where they just say something, like it pieces everything together.
Indian lady scene that got cut where he drops more exposition that we desperately need.
Honestly,
it's a scene between the Indian lady and literally Christopher Nolan. Like fucking John David Washington.
They're staring right into the camera.
Yeah. John David Washington walks into a room and it's just them too.
And Nolan says to Indian lady, I don't understand any of what I just wrote.
He says, "Oh, hey, protagonist, this is the director. He's about to explain something
that's
for
funny.
you."
That's good. That's good.
Because honestly, Priya's character is massively underdeveloped as well, and I feel like
position the character.
Yeah, I feel like if there is an extended cut out there, she definitely had a lot more to do, because she's the wife of a Indian arms dealer or arms manufacturer, right?
Well, she is the arms dealer.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Was kind of whatever.
And she was the one who her company was manufacturing the inverted bullets and selling in the Seder, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, well, as she says,
I don't remember.
She just gave him regular bullets.
Oh, and then he would.
Sater was the one who inverted them, so.
Yeah, but she knew of it all.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, like if she hadn't known about it, then I could have understood why her character wasn't there that much. But since she knew about it, I feel like there could have been a little bit more, because she feels, and then at the end, she is literally about to assassinate Kat.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel like, okay, she knows about Tenet. She knows about inverted bullets. She knows what Satan's trying to do. And she knows about his whole end of the world plan, too.
I think the movie should have been called Race Car. It would have had the same effect, because Tenet
palindrome, yeah.
Backwards. It's been Race Car.
Sure.
Right. I have one word. Race car.
Race car.
I don't think it would have had quite the effect, because that actually reminds me, there's this pretty cool thing I found. Let me see if I can screen share it.
Is it the tablet?
Yeah, it's the Seder stone.
Yeah. Seder square.
Seder square, that's it.
Yeah, I literally we were on the same wavelength because I pulled it up at the same time.
I don't really know how to do this. 1 second.
Uh-oh. Technical difficulties.
No, I got it.
Colin's like all of my Zoom teachers right now.
So all the words were just like ancient square.
Here's your email.
Here's my email. You'll have to cut that off.
25% off!
Bro.
Here we go. So, yeah, it's a Seder square. And if you look closely, so Seder's at the
oh my God, it says
left to right.
Oh, yeah.
And then we have Seder left, or like top to down.
Yeah.
And there's Seder bottom to up and backwards. And it's like that. So then you have Arepo, which was the name of the painter. Or no, was the name of the paint person who got the forged Goya painting.
Yeah.
For Kat, right?
Wait.
That was his name. And then you have Tenet. Opera, which is also the opera. And so it's forwards, backwards, up and down this square. And that was like a big part of, I read, big part of the idea for this movie. And
yeah, kind of like inspired the whole screenplay, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. They're all, well, I mean, Tenet's a palindrome in itself, but this whole square kind of serves as like a palindrome in a sense.
Well,
The Tenet opera.
that just kind of confirms to me the opera house has more than we really can understand.
Right. Oh, and then Rotas was the name of the
His corporation.
The corporation, yeah. So
I noticed that the first time we watched in the movie. I didn't, for some reason, I wasn't expecting a repo to be spelled that way, opera backwards, but
yeah,
when you see it, it's obvious.
I didn't catch it like either time. I was just,
I didn't know about this
the other night, and I was like, oh wow, this is.
Yeah, I noticed. Well, I noticed. So at the scene where they're in the Freeport, like at the final door, and they're both entering like the two doors, and then you just see the sign. It's like obviously in the middle of the screen. It just says Rotas, and I was like, "That's Seder backwards." But this wasn't until the second
Rotas. I just didn't even think about it being Seder backwards.
Yeah.
So kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean that's kind of cool. But I think going back to what we were initially saying, lots of things feel like there needs more time for it to develop naturally, or at least a bit more dialogue or a bit more scenes with them throughout the film. Priya's purpose, even like Seder's plan, feels oddly rushed in a sense. By the end, you're kind of just given it, and it's like, okay, he has cancer. The future, the Earth is dying, so they need to come back. So I don't know. It's tough to decode, and I feel like even after I see it 8 times, I'm not going to fully understand everything.
I feel like a lot of the pieces are there.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You have like 999 pieces put together, and then there's like the one that's just not there.
Yeah.
You're like, damn, I can't see the picture.
Yeah, see the picture. It's just this one big piece that's missing.
Sure. Yeah.
But
All right.
I think we've said enough about Tenet. What do you guys you want to hop into the Nolan ranks?
Actually, I'm not quite done with Tenet yet.
Oh, brother, dude.
No. This would be the last thing.
Okay.
But Casey and I talked about this before, and there's this pretty cool theory floating around the internet right now. And the theory states that Neil is actually Kat's and Andre's son, Max. And it's actually kind of a cool theory.
How would that even work?
So, obviously...
Well, I mean, there's also a theory that this is a sequel to Inception.
Yeah, this is a sequel.
Yeah.
Sure.
No,
So
it's a trilogy. Memento, Inception, then Tenet. They're all 10 years apart.
Oh. Damn.
Think about it.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously it's a theory, and you can interpret it however you want, but I
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it.
But so they mentioned the protagonist, he's been friends with Neil for years or whatever. But what does he say? Years or
No, he says years.
decades?
Yeah.
Something like that. They've been friends for years. So
Pretty good, yeah.
I guess the idea is that he and whatever the kid's name is, that the kid has a name. Max. Yeah. Okay. So they kind of like meet up and.
Well, okay. So John David Washington's character is worried about Kat for the entire movie.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And by the end, after she kills Seder, he tells her, he says, if you ever need anything, I'm just a phone call away.
I'm going to swoop in, go back in time.
That implies that he's going to be keeping a watch of her.
And he does.
For a while. And he does, because he stops Priya from killing her. And I think by doing so, they form a relationship. And maybe John David Washington is just a, person to come in and help whenever needed,
Godfather or whatever.
Sure, or just a family friend. And so I can see he and Max maybe forming a relationship. And in the future, to pay back John David Washington for saving his mother and his own life, essentially, from the end of the world that would have happened if Seder's plan had come to fruition. Neil comes, or like Max, using the fake name as Neil, comes back in time to save John David Washington from dying in the Tenet test from the beginning.
Yeah, but he's kind of like iffy on the whole thought of like saving her when she gets hit by the inverted bullet. He's kind of talking about how it would be incredibly difficult. I think he mentioned how he hadn't pulled it off.
Right, but that's because he doesn't want to give too much away. Because remember how the entire time John David Washington is saying, you seem like you know too much. And he's trying not to explicitly state that he knows him, that Neil knows John.
Yeah.
Because that could compromise the entire mission if John David Washington knows too much, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see it, but I mean, it is. I mean, it could be the case, but I don't think so. I think.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe it is, honestly. I think
I
it's
don't know.
cool.
The more I think about it, the more I'm into it.
Yeah, because if you think about it too, these are like really small things. Robert Pattinson dyed his hair for this. This is getting into the nitty gritty, so you can interpret however we want. But he dyed his hair for this blonde. Max's hair is dirty blonde. So that's one thing. When Neil orders a drink, he's having a vodka tonic. His dad could be Seder, Russian vodka, which is what Kat had on the yacht. Also, there's an interesting thing I read. Neil is, or Max, whatever you want to call him, Neil is a physics. He has a master's in physics.
Mm-hmm.
He's not really medically trained in any sense, other than probably the general a CIA agent would have, if he is, you know, CIA agent in the future. But he stays with Kat through the entire time when they're trying to save her. And he's the one to push it too. So you could see that, people have speculated, you could see that as kind of like a son's drive to save his mother and not leave her side in her time of death.
True. Yeah.
You know, I like the theory. I think it's kind of cool.
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
The more I think about it, the more I realize that there's nothing that like kind of disproves it.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm sort of on board.
Yeah. And I think what people have said too is like, if you look at the movie through the lens of Neil's character as the protagonist, it's actually a lot more interesting that way. If you think of this theory, you know, as truth.
Yeah.
I think it's close.
Yeah, just something to keep in mind. And I think I'll definitely be looking at that more when I see the movie again.
Interesting. So I think before we hop into our ranked list, I think we should just all kind of say our general conclusion on Tenet.
Sure. Yeah.
The rating wise?
Just what rate it? What do you think? Just overall, just quick thoughts about it.
I think we've done enough long thoughts to avoid the quick thoughts.
Just a
quick. I'll just say Tenet for me, 9 out of 10. It's in my top 3 Nolan films. I don't think it's due to recency bias. I think I just really dig this movie. Other than the sound editing or the mixing and the editing, which could have been better. I think it's a really cool concept, really original. I mean, time travel is something that gets done, but this was like a cool way to do it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of that. It's ambitious, possibly, I would say it's Nolan's most ambitious and epic in scale film to date, both conceptually and spectacle-wise. It's insane. He wrote this thing in a little over 5 years.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it took him 10 years to write Inception.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe if he had a couple more years with this idea, who knows where it could be. I hope there is an extended cut because I think that'll add a lot to development and depth for the characters and story, which is something that's missing for me. I still feel, on second watch, I feel like the edit is a bit messier. I noticed a lot more of that. And the plot is a bit confusing, but I think we did a solid job at theorizing and trying to piece the pieces together. Yeah. It's still a 7 out of 10 for me, but I feel like the more we learn about it, the more people discuss about it, the better it could get. I don't think it's his best movie, but I still enjoy it, you know.
I basically agree with pretty much everything you said. We have the same rating on Letterboxd. I think pretty much everyone has said basically what I was going to say. I think it's a fine movie. I think it's really great in terms of action. I think it's definitely Nolan's most ambitious movie. I just think characters could have been developed more. Sound mixing could have been, a lot of editing could have been fixed. I think the idea could have been comprehended to the audience a little more thoroughly if he had more time to develop the script. Script was a little lacking in sense. Overall, I enjoyed it. It's definitely a movie you should see in the theater. It's very good. I think this time, it might be beneficial to see it at your house, though, in a sense, because I do
subtitles.
Yeah, I think it's really subtitles for a lot of scenes. But overall, it's a good movie. It's 7 out of 10 for me as well. I think definitely not Nolan's best. I think it's definitely a back step for him. Me personally, I think every movie before this has been definitely better in a sense. I think this is definitely kind of a downgrade for Nolan, but not necessarily a bad one. It's just kind of in my head, in terms of what I've come to expect from him, it's kind of a downgrade.
It's not going to crash his career to a halt or anything.
It's not even a dud in his career either. It's just just not his best.
Yeah.
You think that's maybe due? Just a quick question. You think because it was so sort of abstract and ambitious that you feel that way? Whereas like Dunkirk is a pretty straightforward story to tell.
Yeah.
It's just no. I don't even think it's that. It's just. I mean, get in a way, I guess, but I just think that in a lot of other like films that he's made, he's communicated a lot of things he's trying to communicate in Tenet better.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying with, like, again, when we get into the ranked list, I'll talk about it. But, like, I personally think Inception is his best movie, and he communicates a lot of the same things that he's kind of, talking about in Tenet, and he just does things a lot better.
The execution's cleaner.
Yeah, it's cleaner.
I think that, yeah.
But, Tenet it's good. It's just definitely
a bit messy.
I think it could have used a couple more years of work on the script and story in general, and how he was going to make everything come together. But I'm not unhappy with the outcome.
Right, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean 8 out of 10 for me. I guess I'm between Casey and you and Sebastian. I don't think I have much more to add though.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we've gone over a lot. This has been going on for about 2 hours now too.
All I know is that I'll definitely be watching it when it comes. When the Blu-ray comes out, I'll definitely grab that. Put up the subtitles.
Yep.
Kick back.
Yeah.
And enjoy it for what it is. Then
And if you haven't seen this film, please don't pirate it and watch it on your iPad. That would be such a disservice.
Support original filmmaking.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right. So let's get into that Nolan ranked then.
All right. Mind if I just quick start? I got it pulled up. I'm ready to go here.
Go for it.
Go ahead. You want to do?
I forgot we were doing this.
You want to do like everyone do 10 through 6? Then we could do like.
I don't know if I've seen all his movies. That's the problem.
Oh, true. Yeah, you're right.
Let me just I'll think about it. You
Sebastian,
guys
go all the way down before. Save 3, 2, 1. Save 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Oh, so just start from the bottom and go up.
Start from the bottom, go up, but stop at 3, and then we'll do everyone top 3.
All right. So 11 is Insomnia for me. I think it's an okay movie. I haven't seen it in a bit, but it's definitely kind of bottom tier Nolan compared to everything else. Following as well, I saw it not that long ago. It's good. It's interesting, but it's just not up there for me and compared to everything else. Again, Tenet is right before Following. We've talked about it for 2 hours. Don't really have to talk about it. Dark Knight Rises, I liked a little more than Tenet, and that's just because I thought it was a solid end to the trilogy. I put Batman Begins right before that at 7. 6 is Dunkirk. I think Dunkirk is great, but it just doesn't work at your house as well as it did in a theater, unless you got like a surround like home setup like Casey does. But like, it just kind of sucks watching it like on my TV because just the tension I felt in the movie theater on my first viewing of it, and the sound mixing in the movie. See, that's amazing sound mixing. The sound mixing in Dunkirk was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And just weird seeing that's what I'm talking about. So like, it's just weird seeing him like backstep on a lot of stuff in this movie compared to Dunkirk for me, because it was like Dunkirk was like all around really good, and then just Tenet has a lot of weird issues, but like Dunkirk, like just in the theater was fucking amazing. IMAX opening night, it was just like the planes coming in, would like scare the shit out of me.
Loud, so
like,
loud.
there was much less of a focus on dialogue,
right?
Where I think they like just said, we're going for this kind of silent film thing. You better fucking make this sound good. Basically.
And even so, like the dialogue isn't super integral. It's not like giving you key points and stuff. Whereas Tenet, you have to listen to every word.
But yeah. So anyway, Dunkirk, it's great. Memento is right behind that. I really do enjoy Memento. It's great. It's definitely his first kind of mind-fucky movie for me. Because when I watched Memento for the first time, I was like, wait a second. I got to rewatch this. And I watched it like the next week, and I was like, okay, I kind of get it now. But it was one of those movies that just kind of mind-fucked me on the first watch. Kind of like Mulholland Drive did, but, it was, it was one of those movies. Number 4, and I'll stop here, is Interstellar for me. I love Interstellar. I think it's definitely it's a great movie. It is, but I think there's some better ones than that. So
Sure. Yeah.
all right, take it away. Whoever's going next.
I guess I'll go. So before seeing Tenet, I rewatched all of Nolan's films, including his short film Doodlebug, which is good. It's a pretty neat, fun
Nice.
short film that definitely goes to show some of his influences and how his mind works in a sense. I'd check it out if you guys haven't seen it. So number 11 would be Batman Begins. Rewatching this one was definitely the most disappointing. I think the coming off of just following Memento and Insomnia, this was Nolan's first big budget, epic in scope film, and I don't think he was necessarily ready yet. The fight scenes and editing are pretty messy. They're kind of all over the place. And this is actually, in my opinion, his worst example of exposition, because it's literally everywhere, you know? Whereas like in Inception or Tenet, it's excusable because it's necessary to the story. There's a scene like in Batman Begins where they're at the water main, and they're like, oh my God, the train, it's coming. And if it runs into the thing, then the water main's gonna blow up, and whatever in the water is gonna make everyone go crazy. We gotta stop it. And I was like, okay, I can see where some people critique him in that sense. So I think Batman Begins is his weakest film. I still enjoy it though. Tenet is right there at number 10, which I think it's good, just a little messy in execution, like we've already said. Following is at number 9. Following obviously is super. It's hard to say it's better than Tenet because it's his first film and it was made for $6,000. You know, so obviously there are budgetary limitations. But when you compare it just to execution and resources, standards of a certain film like that, I think it's the better film overall. I think it has a cleaner script, better story, and it comes together better. Number 8, The Dark Knight Rises. If I were to judge these by like favorites, Dark Knight Rises, I think would be higher, but I think execution, it's a little messy in certain aspects, but I still really enjoy it. I think it's a great conclusion to the Dark Knight trilogy. Number 7 is Insomnia. It's honestly a great thriller, great detective sort of mystery. Robin Williams is fantastic, one of his best roles in my opinion. And it's very different from Nolan's films. I think it gets knocked down because it is different than what we're used to, but I still great. Number 6 is The Dark Knight, definitely the best of the Dark Knight trilogy. I mean, it's iconic, epic in scope. It's fantastic. It's great. Nothing really much to complain about there, other than a few minor things. Interstellar is number 5. Definitely, in my opinion, Nolan's most emotionally resonant film. Makes me cry every time, and I would argue his most visually appealing. It's great. Memento's number 4, and that's a movie, like Sebastian said, it requires multiple viewings, and it honestly, for me, you notice more every single time, and it's great because of that. Yeah, so I'll move on from there.
All right. So I really need to rewatch the Dark Knight trilogy in general. I mean, obviously I like all of them, but even everyone else's low points, I like them too. But I'd start with Dark Knight Rises. I guess I don't really have that many points. Then Prestige, talked about on the podcast, literally. But I think that just the whole concept of something so explainable wasn't that appealing to me in that, but I still think it's a great film. Batman Begins, Dunkirk. Then number 5 would be Tenet. 4 would be Inception, and yeah, I'm just going through this a bit faster.
All right, Casey.
So I've only seen 7 of his movies,
Ooh.
and my rankings are 100% based on did I like the movie? Is it my favorite? Not necessarily focused on the execution aspects of filmmaking. Just when I watch this movie, does it make me emotional? Does it make me excited? Did I walk out of the theater being like, damn? So out of the 7, number 7, Batman Begins. Colin, you made a lot of good points. It's his weakest that I've seen. I don't know. I can't really add much to what you said, but you're right. Number 6, The Dark Knight Rises. Again, good movie. Just my 6th favorite. Number 5, Sebastian is gonna hate me, I think, but number 5 is Inception for me.
He's taking off the headphones. He's gone. He's gone.
I love the movie. So when we're talking about Christopher Nolan's top 5 movies, like it's like degrees of awesomeness. They're all good. Actually, I've only seen Inception 2 times. The last one was the recent watch that we had. I loved it. Number 4, Dunkirk. I love war movies.
Me too.
I thought it was a really original way to tell the story with the 3 different timelines, I guess, like speeds of time or whatever that was going on.
Yeah. Time.
Yeah. That's my number.
Nolan loves some time.
Yeah.
All right.
And yeah, so then top 3, Sebastian started off.
Oh boy, here we go. The moment you've all been waiting for. Number 3 for me is The Prestige. I understand like why Thomas doesn't like it, or like why some people might not like it, but it's just, to me, it's kind of iffy. I think it's Nolan's best acting, I think, in a movie. He has like just the pure talent he has behind, like on screen, is ridiculous. You have Hugh Jackman and you have Christian Bale just giving incredible performances, like completely ridiculous.
And Michael Caine's great too.
Yeah, Michael Caine's great in it too. And again, I just think everything in that movie works. It's great. Like I love magic. I always have loved magic, and I can't really name many good magic movies because it's not kind of it's kind of like a weird subgenre that's not really explored that much.
Now You See Me Too.
I was just about to say, Now You See Me.
I'm talking about like actual like intellectual like
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of like serious magic movies. They're all like joke movies. Like Now You See Me is kind of a joke movie, and then there's the incredible Burt Wonderstone.
I love that movie.
Yeah, but like I just think The Prestige, it's honestly pretty great, and the performances are amazing. Everything again from Nolan is amazing. I think fucking David Bowie as Tesla was probably my favorite part of the whole movie. I love David Bowie, and just seeing him just be Tesla, I thought it was fucking awesome. And the actual trick, the actual build up to this insane, death-defying, amazing trick it's great. It's amazing. The ending to the movie fucking just mind fucked me. I was like, wait a second, and literally, like, that's the whole point of the movie. It's framed like a magic trick, and then you get to the end of the movie, and you're like, wait, it's fucking been here the whole time. The answer to all my questions are here, and I just thought it was a great conclusion. I'm gonna basically say my 2 and 1 are tied because I think me and Colin are the same here. But like, I can't pick my favorite between Dark Knight or Inception. If I was to honestly say, I think personally I would say Inception, just because I think Inception is just something that movies have never seen, and the grand scale of Inception is just fucking ridiculous. Even 10 years later, it still holds up as it did back then. And I remember seeing it when I was younger, and I just didn't really get it. And here I am now, and I really do appreciate it. It's just movies, I've just never seen a movie so ballsy with such a kind of simple concept in a sense, because dreams are really cool, but dreams aren't really explored in movies, and just the scale of having all these dream scenarios on screen and the mind-bending shit that Nolan did with his cinematography and his set pieces, it's great. The acting's fantastic, the story is really great, and I love Inception. But The Dark Knight is definitely, if I was to pick personal favorite, I'd probably have to say Dark Knight, just because it's the fucking Dark Knight. What hasn't anyone not said about The Dark Knight? Heath Ledger, that's pretty much all I have to say about The Dark Knight in a nutshell. Ledger, it's just I can't imagine going out on such a performance. He didn't know he was going to die, obviously, but like, for that to be his last performance ever on film is honestly quite just, it's amazing. Like, it does kind of mind boggle me sometimes to imagine what Heath Ledger could have done after Dark Knight, and we'll never know. We don't live in that timeline, but it is kind of sad to think about it when you watch the movie, because I don't think I've ever seen a performance like Heath Ledger's, and there never ever will be another performance like Heath Ledger's. He embodied the Joker. He was the Joker. Like, that wasn't Heath Ledger. That was the fucking Joker. He turned himself into the Joker, and Joaquin Phoenix did a really good job too, but there's just something just chilling about Heath Ledger's performance. And that's also something I kind of appreciate because he kind of gives you little tidbits into the life of like what his Joker is. There's a little, if you watch the movie, you can kind of understand he's like maybe an ex-military member or something. He has some military training. There's a lot you can kind of piece together on to like what his backstory is to the Joker, but it doesn't really give it to you. And I just kind of really like his performance and how he did it. But everything there is great. There's, everyone's in it. It's just great. I love Harvey Dent. I forget the actor's name at the moment.
Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah, he's really underrated. You don't really hear many people talk about his performance, but his performance as Harvey Dent is probably also my second favorite performance under Heath Ledger. He gets really undershadowed by Heath Ledger, but he did a really good job of being Two-Face. Anyway, that's it for me. I think they were just masterpieces. So,
all right, yeah. So we only got a little bit of time, so I'll try and do mine real quick. Number 3 is The Prestige. I mean, it's incredible. It has to have like the most twists in a film. I think structurally, I was like literally reading a notebook about someone else's notebook and, stuff like that. It's crazy. The magic is awesome. I don't necessarily agree with you, Thomas, how the thing is a little too weird to not accept. I think you just kind of go with it and it makes sense, but whatever. Sure. I think it's great. Number 2 is Dunkirk, and while I agree with Sebastian that it's nothing like seeing it in theaters when you're watching it at home, it's still an incredible movie. And I think for as much as it gets ragged on for lack of character, I think it actually has some really interesting character moments, and that especially give insight to the event of war and how it affects people in it. Great sound, great visuals, great effects. I think it's a great movie. Very tense from start to finish. And the number 1 for me is Inception. I mean, there's nothing really much else to say. It's pretty amazing all around. The score, the performances, the concept, the structure, all the action is incredible. I mean, it's a classic.
I still don't understand how they did some of the fucking stunts in that movie. Like, I think that'll be me with Tenet, but like the one that really mind boggles me is the fucking elevator. Like when he ties them all up in the elevator. How the fuck did they even do that on screen? Like, what the fuck? How did they film that?
It's a wild movie. I'll rewatch all these movies forever, but that's the one that I'll definitely be coming back to. And I think it's his second most emotionally pulling film behind Interstellar.
It is.
All right, Charles.
My number 3 is Memento. You guys just said everything you said about Memento. It's crazy just watching that film and watching everything unravel and just how he does it. Yeah, great film. Then Interstellar, it was just first time watching that was just so like just mind-boggling, just seeing like, oh, pretty colors. Ooh, now I'm crying. Basically, that's all you have to say. It's a good film. And then Dark Knight.
Pretty colors, now I'm crying.
Yeah, yeah, that's a quote. And then Dark Knight. Sebastian just said what needs to be said. It's just that good.
All right, Casey.
Number 3 is Tenet. It's a mindfuck. It's an experience. My ears, I couldn't hear after watching it in IMAX for a good 10 minutes. In and of itself, that's not really a good thing, but the whole, I don't know, something about that movie just speaks to me. I like it a lot. Number 2 for me is The Dark Knight. Sebastian, you said what needed to be said. Heath Ledger, iconic. Name a actor, character, duo, like a better casting than that.
And people thought it wouldn't fucking work, and look at where we're at now.
Hayden Christensen is Anakin.
Shut up. Yep. Deserved Oscar win for supporting actor in that movie. I think all the praise that it gets, it can't get enough. It's an elevation for superhero movies. I mean,
we'll never hit it again.
The Marvel movies are good, but it's not The Dark Knight. It's a totally different tone than what you get. I mean, I think we may sort of see something like that with Robert Pattinson's The Batman, kind of entering that sort of dark area. But as far as storytelling goes, I don't expect it to be anywhere close.
Nope.
For me, number 1, Interstellar. It's what I do for a living. It's what I went to school for. I love space. I like all that stuff. Like you say, Colin, it's a really emotional movie for Christopher Nolan. A lot of people think that his movies are kind of cold, I guess, is a word that I used before, and intellectual, brainy pieces. But Interstellar, there's a lot of heart in Interstellar. I love, like I say, the visuals are amazing. The score is amazing. I think the whole story of Hans Zimmer writing that score is really an interesting story. We have 3 minutes left. I'm going to rush through it. He says, hey, write a story about a father and son with some details about their relationship. And so he writes this theme. He gives it to Christopher Nolan. He says, oh, actually, it's a space movie, and it's not a son, it's a daughter. And Hans Zimmer's like, what? I can't use an organ in space? But he said, you're going to. That's what you wrote. At the heart of the movie is a relationship between this daughter and her dad. Let's roll with it. And end up being amazing.
Yeah.
Everything about that movie, I love. That's my number one.
It's also pretty accurate to, space-time. And
oh, yeah. They had a whole science team on there.
Kip Thorne. Yeah.
Physics.
Yeah.
Everything seems totally, consistent with the laws of the universe that we know of.
Yeah. And so I think that'll wrap it up. Oh, wait, what?
I was just saying that wraps it up.
Oh, yeah. That wraps it up. I think we can all agree.
That wraps it up.
That does wrap it up.
I think we can all agree that Christopher Nolan is one of the best filmmakers working today.
Yeah.
Super influential for the next generation of filmmakers. And his films are ambitious, big in scope. They make you think. They make you cry. He's a great filmmaker.
Original.
There's no filmmaker quite like Christopher Nolan.
And there's no one as trusted as him either. Like,
yeah, you don't see
$200 million,
you don't see original filmmakers getting budgets like that anymore at all. So
the closest we got recently was Rian Johnson. Here's a bunch of money. You can write and direct Star Wars 8. And
get your new trilogy. Oh, hold on. Wait. Oh, wait. Hold on.
Wait, where is it? It's floating in space.
So go see Tenet. Rewatch Christopher Nolan. Support films in theaters.
Chris, if you're watching, re-release Interstellar in IMAX, please.
And give us an extended cut of Tenet, please.
Yes, also, that would be pretty great because we don't understand your fucking movie.
Or at least some notes or like a commentary.
At least a book or something, man. Release the film adaptation novel.
Oh, God.
I mean, they do that. So maybe they'll release some short films that interconnect. I don't know. Just give us
the Anna Tenet.
Yeah, the Anna Tenet. Yeah, that's great.
Before we close off, I'd actually, I'm going to say this. I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to Tenet. I know Christopher Nolan hasn't done any sequels, but I feel like Tenet's the first one where I feel like he probably could do something.
Yeah. I doubt he will.
I doubt it.
I wouldn't be opposed to more exploration into this world either,
I mean, we just talked about he's like one of the last people getting very original films made, and then he's just going to do a sequel to an idea he already had.
Yeah.
Anyway,
unlikely.
For watching
it.
That was our Tenet. Subscribe.
Yes.
Tenet spoilers. I hope you have seen the movie if you watch this.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys.